Hi guys, it's Chris at the Ultimate Recycler. What we have here is 5 rubbish bins or trash cans, depends what part of the world you're from. These are from a function we held last night in our local town. We held a rock and roll dance, and here's a bit of footage of what we do. And we had about 90 odd people in the hall, pretty much a capacity crowd. A live band from Melbourne. It was a great night. We finished up, got home about 1:30 a.m. or something. We had to pack the hall up a bit, and the hall provides us with these bins, and it's our responsibility as hirers of the hall to empty them and return the bins clean. So we had a bit of help packing up, which was great, and a lot of our friends who came to the dance helped clear the tables off, but consequently they're not as into recycling as I am, and everything just went in the one bin, or the one sort of spot. As you can see, also some leftover cake from our supper. There was a nice supper actually. There's your typical, cans of whatever, and bottles of beer and bottles of water. Traditionally the dancers actually don't drink a lot. It's not really a drunks affair. It was a great night of exercise. There's a little bit of Christmas decorations in there as well. So what I'm going to do, rather than send all this to landfill, which most people would, I'll sort it all and show you what sort of contents I get, and I'll see if I can process or recycle as much as possible, and it'll be an interesting experiment as to how much we actually do send off to landfill. Alright, so I'll sort it all out and show you what I get. Okay, all the rubbish is sorted out. Not such a pleasant job, and certainly it would be much better to have bins for each item when we're cleaning up, but the purpose of this is just to see what we can do with it all. This box here is all soft plastics, so there was packets of crisps, wrappings from the cake, the black garbage bags that were actually used in the bins, and all this stuff is actually recyclable. Soft plastics are recycled in Australia through a company called RedCycle, and most of the big supermarkets have bins for that, so I can bag all that up and take it with me next time I go to the supermarket. The bulk of the waste was bottles and cans, all definitely recyclable. These ones all have, Australia has a refund or a deposit scheme. It's 10 cents refund at collection points in participating states or territories. So not every state does it. Victoria doesn't at the moment, but at 10 cents an item there was 95, so there's $9.50 if someone wanted to cash them in. It's a great system, and I can see a lot of school kids making pocket money doing that. I don't know why Victoria hasn't brought it in yet, but I'll be putting all these just in my recycle bin. We don't have as I said, I'm a fair way from the border, and we don't have a cash-in point here. But the good thing is the bulk of that will be going into recycling and not landfill. We have some plastic trays and biscuits and things. Now these are all recyclable. They've all got a symbol on them. They can all go in the recycle bin here. Likewise, the paper. There's paper bags, there's flyers from our next dance and other dances coming up. All that paper could go in the worm farm, but certainly recycle bins, no problems. And the aluminium or aluminum foil trays, certainly recyclable as well. You need to actually have a decent amount scrunched up into a ball. Little pieces won't get sorted in the machine, but that can all certainly go in the recycling bin. This other box over here was more bottles and recyclable containers, but these aren't the 10 cent deposit ones, but these can still go in the recycle bin in Australia, no problems. So that's all good. So huge bulk of the rubbish we had here is all recyclable, which is excellent. What else did we find in the bins? Well, there was some leftover food which wasn't very pleasant to sort through, and again it'd be nice to have a bucket when we're cleaning up the tables Now all this I'm going to put in my worm farm, and I'll show you the results later on, but that will all be consumed. Also there was paper towels or napkins. Can't go in the recycle bin, that cork shouldn't be in there. They can't recycle as paper, but my worms will handle them, so they will all be consumed. Just on this cork, there was 4 corks from champagne bottles or whatnot. I've got a big jar of corks, I'll just add them to the collection, and they actually sell. Someone will buy them for some reason. Likewise, all the tops of the beers, they're all steel, so they'll go in my steel bin, all recyclable. The next section was the paper plates. Now, paper plates I think can go in the recycle bin as paper, but I'm also going to try some of those in my worm farm, so there'll be no issues with those. Now, the tinsel, the Christmas decorations, are not recyclable as far as traditional recycling goes. I'm not even sure what it's made out of, some sort of silver foil type plastic. But I'll have a look at actually reusing that. I have a bit of an idea for that one, I'll show you later. The tea bags. Now, I have done a video on tea bags in worm farms. Bushell's brand, which we had some of these left over, that's why we used them. They were in our store. They aren't recyclable as far as composting goes, because I did a test on tea bags a little while ago, and I'll link it to the top right hand corner now. But these bags contain microplastics or plastic fibres, so they can't go in the compost bin or worm farm without contamination. So I've torn them open here because the worms will eat the tea leaves, the worms will handle the string and the paper, but these tea bags, the actual bag material, will have to be rubbish. There was also a few plates, paper plates, that appeared to have a plasticky lining, so I will try a couple of those in a worm farm just to see what happens. But there's a plastic film on those ones, so they will probably have to go to landfill. Likewise, and this is unfortunate, but all the coffee cups, all the paper coffee cups that is used mostly through all the takeaway shops and everything, they've also got a plastic film inside, and they can't go in the recycle bin. So I will try some of those in the worm farm too as a separate experiment to see what happens. But that box of paper cups really needs to go to landfill, can't go into our recycling system. Plastic plates, for some reason we had paper plates and plastic plates, I'm not sure, I think we're just using up some old supplies. Even though some of this plastic is of a recyclable type, it can't go in our recycle bins in Australia because, as with the cutlery, because the machines can't separate it properly, and it does tend to cause issues with the sorting. So unfortunately they'll need to go to landfill as well. I can't think of any other possible use for those, and no other way of handling the plastic. And the last little bucket I've got here is just a few odds and ends. There was a polystyrene foam tray, Glad Wrap. Unfortunately, well, it's Glad Wrap as a brand, it's a cling wrap. It can't go with the soft plastics, apparently it isn't the same type and can't be reused. And there was a foil type bag here which didn't say recycling on it, so only a really small handful, a polystyrene cup as well, so only a really small handful of rubbish there. But we've certainly reduced the quantity down substantially. I'll do some tests on these cups and some of these other paper plates, and we'll see what happens with those. But I'll probably bag up half a bag of landfill rubbish from what we had 3 big bags or bins full. So I'm pretty happy with that. Next dance, I think we'll try and organise bins which are properly labelled, and we'll go away from the paper cups. We'll probably go back to using proper china or porcelain cups and plates, which the hall has, and they've just installed a new dishwasher, so that'll be much better environmentally to use those, like they did in the old days, of course. So anyway, I'll finish this video up with just a couple of shots at the end of what we do take to landfill, some results from some of the worm tests, and what I was going to do with this tinsel. So here's the napkins or the serviettes and some of the plates that I've spread out in this little garden bed for testing with the worms. The serviettes shouldn't be a problem, but those plates, I think a couple of them have a plasticky lining, and I've cut the paper cup open and I believe they are plastic lined inside, so we'll see how the worms go with that. The other paper plate should be fine, and at the end I've just got the tea bags and, well, actually the tea and the tags and the strings, whereas the bags went in the bin because of the plastic contamination. And then we have this bucket here of scraps, all the food waste that we gathered up, so I'll throw that through the mulcher. And here's what a mulched up mixture of cakes, biscuits and a bunch of grapes and a few nuts. That's what it ends up as. I just threw it through my garden mulcher. There's plenty of my worm videos feature that mulcher, and I just put everything through it because it breaks down the size portions and the worms can get into it much better. So I'll spread that in one of the testing bays and the worms will eat that for sure. And the only other thing with this lot was Christmas tinsel. Now I just shoved it all in a jar with some battery powered Bud Lights, and alright, it's not that imaginative, but it's a great use for an old large jar, and some Bud Lights, which are really cheap to buy. These are some I had left over which we used for a dance, and there we go, the tinsel's been reused. So the final wash up as far as landfill goes, other than the few samples I've taken out of this to test on the worms, which I'll give you the results right at the end of this video, this is all the stuff that I have for landfill. I think I said before it was 3 bags. It was actually 5 bags, or 5 bins if you remember at the start, of what would have just normally gone to the tip. It's been reduced down to this tub full, which is probably less, or about half a bag maybe, so that's 1/10 the quantity. And if we next year use china cups and plates instead of the plastic and paper ones, seriously, this landfill rubbish would be reduced to pretty much what I could hold in my hand. So I think that's a big step in reducing stuff to landfill that people just normally automatically put in the rubbish bins when they're cleaning up, don't even give it a thought. If you have bins named for each particular recyclable, and you don't sort of cheat and use the disposable paper stuff and plastic stuff, sure, it's a little bit extra work, but you then don't have the quantity to get rid of later. If you miss it for a day or two, it starts to smell. Much better being more organised at the start. So I'll just show you the results of the worm tests at the end, but I'm pretty pleased that we've reduced this quantity by really about 90%. Okay, it's been about 2 weeks since I put these food scraps from our dance into this worm testing bay, and it will just give you a peek of what's going on. Look at that, absolutely mountains of worms. Not a great deal of the food waste left, so guaranteed that'll be finished up pretty soon and turned into beautiful worm castings. We'll just scan across here and see what's happening with the plates, paper plates and napkins. Alright, the napkins look like they're vanishing. There's a layer of worm castings over the top of them. Now there's a variety of plates, and that's interesting. The Merry Christmas plate that I thought might have had a plastic film looks like it's been eaten away, and I can't see any signs of plastic. The paper cup that I cut open appears to be still intact, and we'll do a separate test on those at some stage. The paper plate there is certainly disappearing, and the other one maybe not quite. I'll do another check on this one in a couple of weeks just to finalise this video. And now to just finalise the last worm test from the leftover stuff from our dance. This test was the plates and serviettes, and also the tea leaves and everything, I think. It's been left for quite some time to get a positive result, so we'll take this carpet right off. and just see exactly what's going on. So the serviettes have totally gone. There's a little bit of one left where it wasn't damp because it sort of stuck out from under the carpet, but the worms look particularly healthy here, and all the serviettes have gone. Now the next one, the paper plates. Now this is really interesting. The ones that I thought had a plastic film obviously didn't, or particularly this Merry Christmas one. There's hardly anything left, just some little fragments, and I would suggest that the glossy type finish on that was pretty much like a glossy magazine. It's just, I believe it's a soy based ink. There's clearly no problems for the worms. They've just about totally demolished that plate, so that's great. It means those plates didn't need to go to landfill. And the other orangey stripy one looks to be the same. It's a bit more complete still, but then again it might have been a little bit drier over that part. But the worms have certainly been eating through it, and there's no plastic film there that I can see. It's taken a while on this one, but as I said, this may have dried off a bit more out here. But certainly the parts they've eaten show no plastic residue. Now back to this. Oh, the other paper plate was over here, and it's totally gone. So normal paper plates are absolutely fine. That's probably been gone for a long time, that one. Now the other one was the coffee cup, and it looks very clear to me. Let's see if we can lift the edge. Looks like the paper's been eaten. Here we go. So if we peel that up, yep, without a doubt, there is a plastic film. You can actually see my fingers through the film. So the worms have been eating the paper off the back of it. But essentially that's still the size of that cup I cut open. So there's quite a noticeable plastic film. You can even hear it, it rustles like plastic. So that is why you cannot recycle those coffee cups. From all your fast food shops, all your coffee outlets, they've all got this plastic lining, which makes sense. You know, you wouldn't want a boiling hot coffee in cardboard. It's going to basically collapse and go soggy and pour your coffee everywhere, and we don't want to waste coffee. So there you go. Definite proof that those cups are no good for worm farms or recycling or compost, and we'll certainly try to avoid using those at our next dance. I'm not going to leave this in here any longer. That can actually go in the bin. Everything else appears to be good. Last time I checked this, I forgot to actually look right through to the tea bags or the tea leaves. That stuff's just blown in from the wind. But all the tea leaves disappeared, and all the strings and all the paper tags have all totally gone. Look at those worms. So there we go. Great test. It shows me that all the paper plates were perfectly fine to go in the worm farm. The biggest issue though was these paper/plastic coffee cups. Alright, so thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this. At our next dance we'll try and use the china cups and china plates, and hopefully our landfill waste will be virtually nothing, which we're pretty happy with from about 80 to 100 people at our dance. That's great. Alright, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.